The office was almost empty when Daniel heard his secretary singing the words that would change both their lives. It was after 9 on a cold Friday night, the kind of hour when the city outside looked beautiful from a distance but painfully lonely up close. Daniel had stayed late again, sitting alone beneath the harsh fluorescent lights, staring at a spreadsheet he no longer understood. Then, from the small lounge at the end of the corridor, music began to play. His secretary, Emily, had chosen an old duet from the office karaoke machine. Daniel smiled faintly at first, but then her voice trembled through the empty building, soft and heartbreakingly sincere. And when she reached the chorus, she sang, "Take me home with you." Daniel froze. Those 5 words sounded less like romance and more like a desperate cry from someone who had nowhere left to go. Before we continue, if you believe everyone deserves kindness, second chances, and a place where they feel wanted, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to Ripple of Kindness. Your support helps us bring more stories of compassion and second chances to people who need them. Daniel had been the CEO of a successful architectural company for nearly 8 years, but success had taken more from him than it had given. 3 years earlier, his wife had died after a long illness, leaving him with a 12-year-old daughter named Lily. Daniel had tried to become both father and mother overnight, but grief did not care how much money he had or how many employees depended on him. Lily had become quieter after her mother's death, and Daniel had buried himself in work because work was easier than facing the silence waiting for him at home. Emily Carter had been his secretary for almost 4 years. She was efficient, patient, and remarkably observant. She always knew when Daniel had skipped lunch, when he had forgotten Lily's school event, and when he needed someone to quietly place a cup of coffee beside his laptop without asking questions. What Daniel did not know was that Emily was carrying her own invisible burden. She was 31, raising her younger brother after their mother had passed away, and every month she carefully balanced rent, school fees, groceries, and medical bills. She never complained. She never asked Daniel for favors. She simply worked harder whenever life became heavier. That Friday evening, after everyone else had gone home, Emily had discovered that her brother's landlord had given them notice. They had 30 days to find another place. She had spent the entire evening trying to sound calm on the phone while secretly fighting tears. When she returned to the office, she had found the karaoke machine in the lounge and decided she needed 5 minutes where she did not have to be responsible for anything. Daniel walked toward the lounge but stopped at the doorway. Emily had her eyes closed, holding the microphone with both hands. Her voice was not perfect. There were moments when it cracked, but somehow those imperfections made the song more beautiful. When she sang the final line, she lowered the microphone and wiped her cheeks quickly, unaware that Daniel was standing behind her. He asked why she had chosen that song. Emily looked embarrassed and tried to laugh it away, saying she simply liked the melody. But Daniel had spent years learning to recognize the difference between an ordinary smile and one hiding pain. He gently asked again, and eventually she told him about her brother, the eviction notice, the bills, and the fear that she might lose the only stable home they had left. Daniel wanted to help immediately, but Emily refused every offer of money. She reminded him that she was his employee, not a charity case. That sentence stayed with him all night. Daniel realized how often wealthy people confused helping with giving money. Sometimes what a person needed was not a check. Sometimes they needed dignity, understanding, and someone willing to stand beside them without making them feel small. The next morning, Daniel arrived at work earlier than usual and discovered Lily sitting in his office. She had come to drop off a forgotten school project. Daniel told her about Emily's situation, expecting little more than sympathy. Instead, Lily quietly asked why Emily had to leave her home if she had done nothing wrong. Daniel explained that life was not always fair. Lily thought for a moment and then said something that struck him deeply: perhaps they should give Emily a home, not just help her pay for one. That afternoon, Daniel remembered that his late wife had owned a small townhouse near the company headquarters. It had been empty for nearly 2 years because he could not bring himself to sell it. Instead of offering it as charity, Daniel created a different solution. He asked Emily whether she would consider renting the house at a price she could afford, with the option to buy it later if she ever wanted to. Emily was stunned. She asked why he would trust her with something so valuable. Daniel simply told her that sometimes a person could spend years helping others and forget that they deserved help too. Weeks passed, and something unexpected began to change. Emily and Lily became close friends. Lily started visiting the townhouse after school, where Emily helped her with art projects and homework. Daniel began leaving the office earlier. He started eating dinner at home again. For the first time in years, his house no longer felt like a museum dedicated to someone he had lost. There was laughter in it. There were shoes by the door, books on the table, and the sound of someone singing while cooking. Daniel also began noticing Emily differently, not because she was beautiful, though she was, but because he finally saw the strength behind her quietness. Emily noticed changes in him too. The lonely CEO who once treated every problem like a business transaction had become a father who listened, a friend who cared, and a man slowly learning that healing did not mean forgetting the person he had lost. One evening, nearly 6 months after that first karaoke night, Daniel organized a small celebration for the company's employees. There was music, food, laughter, and the same old karaoke machine. Someone jokingly handed Emily the microphone and asked her to choose a duet partner. She looked across the room at Daniel. For a second, neither moved. Then Daniel smiled and walked toward her. They chose the same song. As the music began, Emily's voice filled the room again, but this time there was no sadness hidden behind it. When they reached the chorus, she looked directly at Daniel and sang, "Take me home with you." The room became strangely quiet. Daniel understood immediately. She wasn't asking to be rescued. She wasn't asking for a house. She was asking whether the life they had slowly built together could become something more. Daniel reached for her hand. He did not make a grand speech. He simply told her that home had stopped being a place for him a long time ago, and that somehow, through kindness and patience, she and Lily had taught him what home was supposed to feel like. Emily cried. Lily cheered from the corner. Even the employees who had witnessed the moment smiled through tears. A year later, the townhouse was no longer merely a rental. Emily had purchased it with a small loan Daniel helped her secure through the company's employee assistance program. She and her brother were safe. Lily had grown more confident. Daniel had learned to leave work before sunset whenever possible. And on Friday evenings, the four of them often gathered around the old karaoke machine, laughing when someone forgot the lyrics. The most beautiful part of the story was that Emily's words had never really been about a building. When she first sang, "Take me home with you," she had been asking for somewhere she could finally feel safe. Daniel had thought he was giving her a home. In truth, she had helped him find his own. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who needs a reminder that kindness can change a life, and subscribe to Ripple of Kindness for more emotional stories about hope, compassion, and second chances. And before you go, comment, "Everyone deserves a home in someone's heart," if you believe that sometimes the greatest gift we can give another person is not money, but the feeling that they are finally not alone. Because sometimes, the person asking you to take them home is not really asking for a place to live. They are asking for a place to belong. And sometimes, when you open your door to someone else's loneliness, you discover that you were the lonely one all along.